Hi everyone, this is Quotidian Light, and today I'm here with a really special video. I'm excited because this is really my first sponsorship. One of the things that's great about the trip I took was I was really able to test out my gear and see what worked and what didn't. And one of the things that you guys all saw was that my hiking boots did not work. And I have been living in my Luna sandals for the past, 2 years. And these ones I've been living in since before my trip. I ended up doing most of my trip in these shoes. But I really felt like I wanted a pair of closed-toe shoes, both to wear when I want to look nicer, but also I noticed a couple things on the road. First, my feet were getting really filthy on the road just wearing sandals, which is fine normally, but I was getting in and out of people's cars, and sometimes I would get into a really nice car and my feet would just look bad. Second, being in sandals all the time really tore up my feet in the way that my heels just looked gross all the time. I was constantly having to use a callus scraper and foot stone, and just it was hard to keep my feet looking nice being in sandals all the time. So while I love my Luna sandals and I'm going to continue to wear them for most of the time, I really wanted to have a closed-toe shoe that I could wear occasionally to keep my feet in better condition, to allow myself to walk through dusty environments, dirtier environments, and still have clean feet. If I wear non-minimalist shoes, my feet cramp up pretty significantly, especially since I've had my foot surgery, and it took me over a year and a half of just wearing Birkenstocks to get my feet healthy. I'm not about to backslide by wearing non-minimalist shoes. I found these shoes. These are Wildlings. And when I found them on Instagram. I was going through Instagram looking at minimalist shoes, and I ran into this company, and I was bummed because it looked like they only made children's shoes. And I was looking at these children's shoes and thinking, those are exactly what I want. And so then I went on the website a couple times thinking it was just children's shoes, and then I clicked a random button. Turns out they made adult shoes. But the way the website was set up was such that if you didn't really know, you might not understand what they were saying. So they call these shoes Wildlings. And because children, you want them to go wild, and like wild and free feet, wild and free children. Well, the adult version is called Rewilding. So when I saw that on the website, I didn't realize what that meant, and I never clicked it. Well, once I did click it, I got really excited, but I couldn't afford a pair. And so I contacted the company and asked them if they would be interested in doing a sponsorship type situation with me so that I can get a pair and really do an in-depth review. So let me just get in here and unbox. So the first thing that they sent me is a pair of membrane socks. So since the shoes aren't waterproof, you wear waterproof socks with them when it's raining, and that keeps your feet dry. And so I really want to thank them for sending me a pair of these. These look amazing. They're seamless, waterproof, breathable Dex shell socks. Ooh, and they feel soft on the outside. That'll be really interesting. I've never worn waterproof socks before. They sent me a small kit. This is their repair adhesive and sealant. Oh wow, I wasn't expecting all this. They sent me an extra set of insoles, which is really cool. And they're cork on one side, and the other side is some sort of waffle knit material. So this is going to be interesting. And here are the shoes. Oh my goodness, they look so much better than I expected. Oh wow. And then it comes with their regular insole. And these are really, really lightweight. Really flexible. Oh, that's cool. But see what I mean about the bottom of the shoe? It's kind of split so that your foot can really do what it wants to do in a way that is interesting. I think these might even be more flexible than my sandals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wear these for the week as my exclusive shoes, and then in a couple weeks, in 3 weeks, I'm going to be leaving New Orleans for Las Vegas and then upstate New York. So I will wear these during my trip, and I will come back with a really in-depth review of how these respond to heavy-duty adventure style traveling. So I have been wearing these shoes for the last 2 weeks. These are called the Tanaku the Tanaki style of the Wildlings. I went ahead and I looked up some more information on them just because I found them really fascinating. The upper is made out of 70% paper, and the insole that comes with that shoe is actually, the under part is coconut fiber, which I found really interesting. Now, as I showed in the unboxing, they gave me 2 insoles, and so this is the summer insole, and the summer insole is cork and like a cotton material. So I wanted to give these a really, really good wear so I could have a better idea of what to say about them. You know, I thought it was really important when I decided that I was going to email them to make sure I did the research in advance. So I wasn't emailing a company that I probably wouldn't like their product. I wanted to make sure I was getting something that I wanted anyway, because I'm a minimalist. I don't want a bunch of crap that I have to deal with. And these shoes, you know, I had been looking at them for, I don't know, about 7 months, the brand, and when they agreed to go ahead and send me a pair, I was really excited, but I was nervous. I was nervous that I wouldn't like them, and that I would, you know, was gonna have to do a bad review. But frankly, I love these shoes. So I have been wearing minimalist shoes, barefoot style shoes, since 2008. Yes, since 2008. And no, 2009. I've been wearing minimalist style shoes since 2009. I started out with Miriam Frei fingers, and then I got injured at work and I wasn't able to wear my Vibrams anymore. And then eventually I worked myself back into Breathable Barefoot shoes and Zero shoes. And then after I had my foot surgery, my feet were just a mess, and I ended up stuck in Birkenstocks for almost 2 years, like 1.5 years. And once my feet were healthy enough to get back into barefoot shoes, I went right back into Breathable Barefoot and Aughts shoes. But none of them really truly felt barefoot, and the closest I'd gotten was my Luna sandals. And I love my Luna sandals. They have such a good grip, and they're so great for hiking and things like that. And I thought that that was as close to barefoot as I was gonna get, and I love those shoes. And then I got in these shoes, and I felt like I was having to do the break-in period all over again because I was working muscles that hadn't been worked. One of the things that really, really was a huge improvement for me is when you look at the bottom of the shoe, you see the split here? That allows your foot to do this. So on my foot, this side of my foot, during my entire trip and even before, it always feels tight. Doesn't matter what shoe I wear, whether I'm wearing Zero shoes, Luna sandals, does not matter. This part of my foot gets tight, it swells up, and it loosens up. I have to stretch it. My foot, it feels almost like the bones aren't quite aligned there, and I'm always having to massage it out. When I started wearing this shoe, at first it was actually too barefoot for me, which is saying something. That was huge for me. Even starting to wear the when I first went to barefoot shoes, I was wearing the Miriam Frei fingers, and I didn't really have that much of a break-in period to train my feet. You know, obviously I didn't go walking a gazillion miles, but it felt really comfortable right away. And I put these on, I was like, whoa, I can feel everything. So I actually ended up putting in the cotton insoles for the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 days, and just to give my feet a chance to get stronger, to have time on ground, really. And then I gradually moved over into this insole. This insole, it's just as thin as that one, but it feels thinner. And so what I noticed is after about 5 days, that tightness on the outside of my foot actually started to go away. My feet are way more flexible than they were when I started. I'm noticing tightness in my calves and stuff that has always been there, but because the rest of my foot was tight, I didn't really notice. And so, you know, I'm doing that. I'm noticing that my toes are gripping things as I'm walking. You know, I did a little video of me standing, and I'll insert it here. And in that video, you can really see how my feet kind of grip the curb almost. It's fascinating, really. These shoes are the best barefoot experience shoe that I've ever had, and I'm kind of floored because I figured I would like them, and I figured that they'd be great for keeping my feet clean and just generally being able to cover my feet on the road. I didn't expect them to actually feel better, and that's how I feel right now. I wish that these shoes had been available when my kids were really little, because they started out making children's shoes because children are naturally barefoot. Like, that's how they're born, and we ruin their feet by putting them in shoes. And I really wish that I'd had something like this to be able to put my kids in right away when they started walking. I think it would have been much healthier for them in the long run. So as far as a barefoot experience, I think it gives a superior barefoot experience. As far as the look of the shoe, in that video you can see they look good. My sandals always look like sandals. They look cute. They look like cute sandals. But I have had other barefoot shoes in the past that look funny, and people look at me when I'm walking down the street like, what are on your feet? These don't have that effect. They just look like any other canvas shoe. They fit really well. They don't slip off my feet. They have a nice wide toe box, but the heel is still narrow so that they're not slipping around all over the place while I'm walking. I didn't have any problem tightening, and there is a loop on the tongue. There's like a loop here, and so before I put it through the top two loops, I just go through the tongue and then through the tongue, and that keeps your tongue up while you're, throughout your day. You're not having that issue kids get when the tongues go down. You don't get that. When I first got it, I was worried about the canvas material because, it's 70% paper. It's made out of washi. And it was a little itchy when I first got it. It was itchy for about the first day. Now, mind you, I have extremely sensitive feet, not just in as far as I trip a lot, I sprain my ankle, like my bones don't sit right, like I got messed up feet, but also if my socks are too itchy or if something's too tight, my skin on my feet gets really, really irritated. My feet were irritated on the top for the first day, and it was where on the tongue, on the tongue there is a seam right here. That seam bugged just the daylights on me the first day. Second day it bugged me a little less. Now I don't even feel it. I think it just really needed to be broken in and softened up a little bit. So that was fine. As far as waterproofness, someone asked me if they're waterproof. They are not. The idea being, if you remember when I was hiking, I had those waterproof boots, and they were great. I could literally walk into a giant puddle and my feet wouldn't get wet. The problem was, and the reason why I got rid of them, and the reason why I started looking for a new pair of shoes, is because the water slid down my pants into my shoe, and because they were waterproof, they couldn't dry out, and they were wet like 3 days later. And for hiking, that's not something I can have happen. It's not healthy for your feet. And so these are not waterproof. They are waterproof on the bottom. So if you're walking into just a little bit of standing water, my feet stay totally dry. But if the water gets like up to about here, your feet are gonna get wet. They did give me Durex socks, deck shell socks. And these keep your feet dry. They are waterproof socks. And the ones I have, the inside is wool. They have another pair there, the inside is bamboo. I requested wool because I wear primarily wool. And the wool is very soft. It feels like any other merino, like it's not itchy or anything, even though my feet are sensitive. It feels like any other merino sock that I would get. And I put these on, feet totally dry. And the best thing was, I soaked these in a rainstorm, and I put them inside. I didn't even like dry them off with a towel, which probably would have sped things up a little bit. They were dry in 6.5 hours. So that is amazing when you're going camping and stuff, because then you can just take off your shoes, hang them up in your tent, take your microfiber towel and dry them off, and your shoes are going to be dry. I really appreciate that. These are also really lightweight. 2 of these shoes probably weigh about the same as one of my Luna sandals. I love my Luna sandals. I think it's important for me to travel with sandals for a couple reasons. One, in hostel bathrooms, it's not safe necessarily to be walking around barefoot in there. People have athlete's foot and stuff, and that's just nasty. Going to the pool, going to the beach, I like to be able to slip in and out of my shoes. And I do really love them for hiking and stuff. They have really good grip. But frankly, I could probably travel exclusively in these. My feet are so much more dexterous in this that I don't trip the way I do in other shoes, including my Lunas. I trip all the time. I trip less in my Lunas than in other shoes, but it's one of the reasons I trip all the time. I'm more pigeon-toed when I wear regular shoes. I don't do that. I have a much better feel of the ground. I don't stumble into things as much. My feet feel healthier in these. I'm just really, really happy. Hey, I'm here with the final comments that I have on these Wildlings shoes. I have been traveling for 2 weeks now, hitchhiking. I hitchhiked to Savannah, Georgia, stayed in Savannah, Georgia for a little under a week, then hitchhiked up to Indianapolis, and then went further on to Urbana, Illinois. I'm currently in Urbana, Illinois, and me and these shoes have really gotten to know each other very well. I'm glad that originally I was going to edit the video really quickly and have a review out after my first week of wearing them. But the longer I wore them, the more things I was thinking about them, and I wanted to make sure that I came to you guys with a really good understanding of these shoes, and I feel like I have that now. First thing that you're going to notice is it's kind of shiny on the toe. And that is because I have had an injury to the shoe. And this part of the review is really going to talk about these shoes for adventure travel. Because for me, I think these are the perfect type of shoe for adventure travel. So I was in Savannah, Georgia, and I was coming out of the Flannery O'Connor house, and I tripped over a rock in the middle of the street. They have really old cobblestone type streets, and I tripped. When I tripped, my toenail was too long because I hadn't cut it in a little bit, and it actually went through the material. Now, if you remember, these shoes are made of 70% paper on the top. This is the only style of the shoe that is made of paper. The other shoes are all made of denim. So they probably would have sustained that fall a little bit easier. These are a little bit more delicate, but I don't mind. And the reason why I don't mind is because I learned that these shoes are really easy to repair on the road. And when you're traveling for a really long time and you're not coming home to a home base, having a shoe that is easy to repair is often more advantageous than having a shoe that lasts a long time, and then when it breaks, it's done. You're over with. You don't have any other options. When I went to repair the shoe, I just went ahead and darned it. It was just like a little cut. I darned it with my sewing kit. It's repaired very easily, and I could have left it at that. But the truth is, I'm clumsy, as I talked to you guys about. Now, I trip a lot less in these shoes. I trip less in these shoes than I have in any other shoe I've ever worn in my life. Like, I used to end up at the doctor's at least once a month as a child because I was constantly twisting my ankles and tripping over my own feet. So I have so much better feel of the road now that I don't trip in these very often. But because I am prone to it, especially in rough terrain, I went ahead and created a toe cap with the repair kit that they send. And they actually, on the website, they have instructions for how to do that underneath the material. It's really easy. The material isn't special to them. You can buy it stateside. It's just urethane, like repair material that you would get at a camping store. And you go ahead and put a little piece of tape, which I didn't do because I was being lazy and I was in a hurry and I didn't care if it looked neat. And you just put a layer of glue over the top and really like massage it in really good with the brush. And what that's going to do is just reinforce that toe a little bit. They actually, on the site, they recommend it for children that tend to use their toes as stops when they're on bicycles. So it just gives you a little bit of extra reinforcement. I have not had to reinforce the sole at all. I have not had any repair issues in the sole at all. I've been wearing these for over a month. No problems with these soles. The fact that they are, in addition, most shoes that have like these type of plastic soles that come up the side, they're just glued. These are glued, but they're also sewn. So if you look really closely, you can see the little lines, they're sewn in there. So I feel really stable in these shoes. I feel like, the bottom's not going to come out. I feel like if something were to happen to these shoes, I could easily use repair material to fix it. And I like the fact that repair material is easy to find. But in addition, I like the fact that there's not a whole lot of layers of construction with these shoes. So if I need to take a needle and thread, let's say my shoes die in the middle of the W in Patagonia, I can get my needle and thread out and fix my own shoes. So that's kind of awesome. Now, as far as do I pick up these shoes, I wore these exclusively for a week because I wanted to break them in and see how they worked. I wanted to see what happened to them when they got wet. I wanted to see, did they feel different? I've been wearing my Lunas for a really long time. I kind of wanted to take them out of the picture and give these shoes a really good chance. After that week, I went ahead and allowed myself to just pick whatever shoe I wanted to. And what I found was that I was gravitating to the Wildlings more than the Lunas. I love my Lunas, but I'm going to be very frank here. The only times that I pick up my Lunas right now are if I'm going to be doing like a water crossing of some sort, if there's like huge puddles, and I just don't feel like wearing my waterproof socks, and I'll just grab my Lunas because they're right there. I pick up my Lunas when I'm too lazy to tie my shoes. We're being straight here. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you just want to get up and go outside to go check the mail or get a cup of coffee, and you just, you're stumbling around. I put on my Lunas. I also put them on when I'm taking a shower in hostels. But pretty much those are the only times I pick up my Lunas. And right now I am actually contemplating on paying for a second pair of Wildlings for this winter. Now, as far as, wow, I just hit myself in the face. As far as the company, I really enjoyed speaking with the company. I really enjoyed my communication with the company. I will say they are in Germany and they are a very small company. I think there's only 3 people working in the company. So if I email them, it takes like 2 days for them to get back to you. Just know that going into it. Shipping is really easy and pretty quickly. I got my shoes much faster than I expected. I expected to wait a couple weeks, and it was like it was almost the same shipping as when I would buy something in Japan and I lived in California. Like it would come within a week or two, like really quickly. And that's the way it was with these shoes. I will say that the box was pretty tore up when I got it. United States Postal Service was not nice to German boxes, but they got here in one piece. I didn't lose anything. The box was secure and the shoes were fine. So that was good to know, because sometimes when you're shipping from overseas, you have to think about that. Now, as far as the insoles, I actually prefer the thinner insoles now. Pretty much the only time I wear these is when I'm airing out the thinner insoles, which brings me to the one con of these shoes, at least for travel, when you are literally wearing these every single day. These shoes can stink. Now, mind you, if I wore socks, I would not have this issue. But I don't like to wear socks. I only wear socks when it's cold or if it's raining. So 99.9% of the time, I am barefoot in these shoes. These shoes reek. Now, this is part of the reason why I kind of want a second pair. So I can wear one pair one day, another pair the next, and kind of flip-flop back and forth. And that'll keep them from stinking because I'll have a full 24 hours to air out. What I have been doing that's helped a lot is, at the end of the day, I take out my insoles and I set them out and I let them air out. The other thing I did when I went camping is I took them out and I set them on the car and let the sun bake the insole and the shoe, because there's nothing in the shoe that can get ruined by heat, by the sun. It was fine. These shoes are also really easy to wash. So now that I'm in a decent location where I can wash stuff, I will be putting these in a sink full of sudsy water and just getting them washed up. But that is something to know. If you are prone to not wearing socks, make sure you air out your shoes on a regular basis, because if you do not, if you wear these constantly for weeks and weeks and weeks of hitchhiking, and then you take these off and try to put them in your tent, it's not a good smell. So just know that going into it. The other thing to know going into it that's a little bit of a negative is, again, this is a really tiny company. They get small shipments of things, and those things sell out very, very quickly. So if you want a pair, go on the website, and sign up for when things get replenished so that you can get an email, and just know if they're in stock, they're not going to stay in stock for very long. These shoes right now are out of stock. They tend to only have their summer shoes for the first few weeks of summer, and then their winter shoes come in, you know, right around back to school time, and then they have them for the first few weeks of fall. It's not a whole lot of really fast replenishment. So if you are interested in these shoes, definitely look at the website, decide what kind of shoes you would want to get, and then sign up for the little thing where they send you an email, you know, when the shoes come in, and kind of stock them on Instagram. They'll tell you on Instagram when they get a new shipment in of shoes. And, you know, I'm not mad at them for that. I like the fact that I'm working with a really tiny company with actual human beings that are creating something really ecological, which these are. I feel like they're ecological both because of the materials, they're recyclable, but also the fact that they're so easy to repair on your own without a lot of toxic stuff in order to do so. You know, they're just very, very simple shoes that work really well. And I honestly, I love them. I really, really enjoy these shoes, and they will be on my gear list for Mexico and Central and South America. So this is the conclusion of my Wildlings review. I hope you enjoy it. Until next time, ciao.